Hi, this is 21 Questions. My name's Mike. I run a trivia company and I make really good tacos. Here's 21 trivia questions for you. Let's get started. Question 1. In children's TV, how many Teletubbies were there? Let's see. There was Tinky Winky, there was Dipsy, there was Laa, and there was Po. So that would be 4. Question 2. Is lavender in the same botanical family as mint or bananas? Lavender is in the mint family. Question 3. In Australia, which supermarket chain offers its customers an everyday rewards card? That's Woolies. Not that I'm advocating for Woolies, although I am open to sponsorship Woolies or Coles or Aldi or anyone really. Just saying. Anywho, my everyday rewards card with Woolies got me $400 off my last ticket to New York last time I went. Not that I'll be going back to America anytime soon, just saying. Question 4 is always a true or false question. Here we go. True or false? Poseidon is the god of the sea in Roman mythology. That's false. He's the god of the sea in Greek mythology. Neptune is the one you're thinking of. Question 5. Travis Bickle is the main character and protagonist in which 1976 movie? Played by Robert de Niro. Are you talking to me? Is that what I am to you? That would be Taxi Driver. Taxi Driver. Question 6. Music question for you. Musicians Paul Hewson and David Evans are better known by what nicknames? You might have heard Paul Hewson. He's known as Bono. And Dave Evans is The Edge, of course, from U2. Question 7. Is a nanosecond 1/millionth or 1/billionth of a second? A nanosecond is 1/billionth of a second, and I don't know at what point we decided we needed that kind of a measurement. There's lots going on in this world I don't understand. I'm just going to say that up front. Let's do the Who Am I? Who am I? I was born in London in 1961 and emerged during the flamboyant New Romantic movement of the early 1980s. My androgynous appearance, colourful fashion, and distinctive voice made me one of the most recognisable figures in pop music. That could be a few people so far, couldn't it? But there's more clues coming for you after question 14. Question 8. How many individual squares are on a chessboard? Now, I don't want people going, well, technically there's a square and then there's a slightly bigger square. When you group 4 of the squares together, that's another square. I just mean individual squares, and the answer is 64. 8 rows of 8. Question 9. Which 6-letter word of French origin is a type of tart filled with eggs and a variety of meats and or veggies? That'd be quiche. I don't know why, but growing up there was this whole thing about real men don't eat quiche. I think a better saying would be real men don't have stupid rules like that. Just saying. Question 10, here's an easy one for the Star Wars fans. Who played Luke Skywalker in the first Star Wars trilogy? That'd be Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill doesn't appear too much as himself anymore, but he's been a noted voice actor for a long time. Pretty sure he played the Joker or the voice of the Joker on the Batman cartoons for years. And he's quite funny on X, which of course is the artist formerly known as Twitter. Or did I get that back to front? I might have. Question 11. True or false? Eric Weiss was born in Hungary in 1874 and was better known as Harry Houdini. That's true. The great escapologist did some interesting stuff. Came to Australia, something to do with early flight. Am I wrong about that? I should Google that before I say things like this on a knowledge-based podcast. Never mind. Question 12. What 8-letter word is a published notice of a death, sometimes with a brief biography of the deceased included? That's the obituary or an obituary, the obituaries. And there comes a point in your life where you read those just to check in on your old friends, apparently. I haven't got there yet, I'm happy to say. Question 13. Which Australian actor, bearing in mind when I say actor, I use it in the modern sense, so it could be a boy or a girl, but spoiler alert, in this case, it's a girl, she's a girl. Shouldn't assume a gender. I've done that now. We'll move on. Question 13. Which Australian actor has starred in Eyes Wide Shut, to Die For, and the TV series Lioness. That's Nicole Kidman, and I got to say, Lioness is one of the best shows I've watched in the last year or so. It's on one of the streaming services. Highly recommend Lioness. Question 14. Which 8-letter E word means deriving ideas, style, or taste from a broad and diverse range of sources? That is eclectic. Eclectic. Interesting word. Okay, after question 14, we'll do some more clues for the Who Am I. Here we go. Same person as before. I fronted a band whose debut album became a global success, producing multiple international hits. At the height of my fame, I struggled publicly with drug addiction, which later led to legal troubles and a prison sentence. He's in much better shape now, though. We'll talk more about him in a minute. Back to the trivia. Question 15. Historically, by what name is the Maid of Orleans also known? Thought about giving you, she's known as Joan of Who. I thought that's too easy, but just the Maid of Orleans, is that too hard? I don't know. I'm not quite sure who's listening to this podcast yet or how hard to pitch the questions, but the answer is Joan of Arc. Question 16. What is the traditional main alcoholic ingredient of a margarita? That'd be tequila. Tequila! Question 17. Which author wrote the Twilight series of books? There really is something for everyone in this set of questions. The Twilight series of books written by Stephanie Meyer, or Meyer, M-E-Y-E-R. So not really spelled like Meyer, the Australian department store. Meyer, probably. That's 17. Question 18. True or false? For several centuries prior to 1820, many Americans considered the tomato to be poisonous. That's actually true, and it's a very good story. There was a Colonel Johnson, I think his name was, and he said, I am going to eat a tomato on the steps of Town Hall. And everyone went, no. And he went, yes, I am. And he did, and they all stood around going, well, any second now, he's going to die horribly. And he didn't. And everyone went, oh, I guess we'll just go home then. I think the same with bananas. At some point they said bananas were bad for you. Anyway, question 19 is always an alive or dead. I give you a name. You tell me if you think that person is alive or dead. Today, alive or dead, Pete Townsend, legendary member and main songwriter of The Who. People try to put us down, talking about my generation. He's alive. He is alive. Pete Townsend, he's 80 years old, so he'll be around for a long time yet. Question 20, music question, although I guess arguably question 19 was a music question too. Question 20, which song, released in 1965 by the Beatles, is considered one of the most covered songs ever, with over 2,200 versions recorded? It was also the name of a movie featuring the Beatles' music, from 4 or 5 years ago. Of course, I'm talking about Yesterday, when all my troubles seem so far away. What are you going to do, hey? Yesterday. The final clues for the Who Am I. In addition to music, I've worked as a DJ, a fashion designer, and television personality, appearing as a coach on talent shows. Best known for hits like Karma Chameleon and Do You Really Want to Hurt Me, I was the lead singer of Culture Club. I am, of course, Boy George. You might know him as George O'Dowd. Either is fine. Now, at the end of each episode, I'm now including a player question, a question provided by a trivia player. First of all, the answer to last week. Last week, Karen from Caboolture asked the question, what's the only new sport to be added to the 2026 Winter Olympics? And the answer is ski mountaineering. Ski mountaineering. There you go. Great question, Karen. Topical and very interesting. I love that. Liam has sent in a question, and that is, how many official James Bond films have a one-word title? When you talk James Bond, you've got to talk official and unofficial movies because the answer's often different. You need to make that distinction. How many official James Bond films have a one-word title? Thank you, Liam. Liam's from Redland Bay, I think. That's a fantastic question. Okay, that's another episode of 21 Questions done. Thank you very much for coming to play. I really appreciate that. Please send me your feedback. Let me know what kind of score you got. I'd love to know what you're doing while you're listening to this podcast. If you feel like it, I'd love you to rate, review, subscribe, do all the things. I know most of you won't do any of that, and that's okay too. The most important thing to me is that you come back and listen to another episode, and you'll have that opportunity in a couple of days' time, because this podcast comes out on Tuesday, on Thursday, and Saturday. They come out at 6 o'clock in the morning, or at least that's when I schedule them for. I'm not always up that early to check, but in theory, 6 o'clock Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, there's a new episode of 21 Questions for you to play along with. I hope you had fun with this set of questions. I hope you found them interesting. Thank you very much for your company. Chat to you again soon. Bye.